You are listening to the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to show number 37. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 17th of June 2006. The bees don't do it, the birds don't do it, but every project manager does. Every project manager gets involved in politics. Some do it with gusto, some do it grudgingly, some do it unknowingly, and some do it knowingly. But there is no way that you as a project manager can get away from your projects, no matter how small or how large your project is. And that is why our feature interview today is with Brian Irvin. Brian is an author. He is writing on a book on project management, and he suggested that we do this interview prior to his book actually coming out, and he'll be back later in the year when his book is out, and he's promised to have 4 or even 5 copies of the book available for us so we can raffle it off. But before we get to the interview, here are a few announcements and a few helpful resources for you. First of all, I want to thank Suresh TV. Suresh is the Chief Executive of Globe IT Staffing Solutions. Suresh has sent out announcements about my podcast to several thousands of contacts in his network. Suresh has also asked several of his contacts personally to go and buy books at Amazon through my link on the blog. And he keeps sending notes about my show to individuals in his address book. Thank you so much, Suresh. You are absolutely a true fan of the Project Management Podcast. I really appreciate what you're doing for it. I got a long voicemail on the feedback line at 206-339-6520 from a Canadian listener. Now, I'm not ignoring your message there. I just have a lot on my plate right now, so allow me that I just pick and choose from your feedback. And the one thing that was important to me is I wanted to mention that you asked how, as a Canadian citizen, you could buy books at Amazon through me. Well, the same would probably go for German and French and British citizens. Simple. Click on the Amazon link on the blog page, and then when you get to Amazon, click on the word international, which you will find in about the center towards the top of the page. And when you get to the international page in Amazon, just click on your country where you are from. And this way you can buy at your local Amazon store, and you can still support the Project Management Podcast. I get many emails throughout the week, and this one comes to us from Brazil. Hi Cornelius, my name is Fabio and I'm from Brazil. I really like your blog and I listen to your podcast every time. I keep all episodes on my iPod. I'm a huge Mac fan and I would like to know if there is any software like MS Project for Mac. Thanks and congratulations for your podcast, Fabio. Well, Fabio, I have to tell you, I don't know if there is any software for project management for Mac out there, but what I did is the simple choice. I went to a website called Google, don't know if you've heard of it, and in the search term I put in project management for Mac, and up came quite a long list of websites that do offer software in project management for Mac users. So it is there, it exists, it is out there. But what you may also want to consider, if you don't actually need to install it locally on your machine, that you can go with a service, some online software, like some of the sponsors that we've had in the past here on the show. So check them out and see whether or not you want to go with a locally installed software, or whether you would like to use an ASP model where you subscribe to the service online. This episode is sponsored by the University of California, Irvine. Better, faster, more. We hear this from our stakeholders every day. Do you have the tools to take on these demands? The University of California, Irvine Extension Project Management Certificate Program can give you the knowledge to get your projects done, on time, on budget. To learn more, visit www.extension.uci.edu/pm or call 949-824-7774. UCI Extension is a Project Management Global Charter member. 2 weeks ago, I had an interview with Frank Reynolds. And Frank Reynolds, remember he had the CAPM interview, the Certified Associate in Project Management. That's what he did with me. Yesterday at our monthly dinner meeting here at the PMIOC, Frank shows up with a baseball cap with a big M in front. And he says, look, this is the Cap M. And he also handed out this flyer. And on the flyer, he writes that his company, Outer Core Inc., that they are offering a 3-day course for CAP-M candidates. And they are still seeking 2 more candidates to join that course. So if you happen to be in Southern California and you're interested in this, go to www.outercoreinc.com. And finally, I would like to remind you of the survey that I have at the blog. I would really like to better understand how you download and listen to the program. Broadband, dial-up, do you listen to it in the whole, just in parts? Do you use your iPod? Do you use iTunes once you've downloaded to play it? Well, please go to the blog, take 3 minutes out of your time. It's 8 questions and a comment field, and you should be able to do this in 3 minutes. If you do that, I promise that I will listen to what you have to say, and I will improve the technical quality of the show as much as possible so that everyone can enjoy it at its fullest. Thank you very much. I only had one helpful resource last week, and this week I have 5 for you, and we're concentrating on project management seminars around the world. And what better to start with than a seminar on politics? Exactly. This one here is titled Training Course, Power, Politics and Influence in Projects. This will take place on June 27th to June 30th, and it is in Johannesburg in South Africa. And it's subtitled A Practical and Experiential 4-day Project Management Training Course. Go check it out. One thing that I have noticed is that most project managers who write to me seem to be in IT, and they seem to be having something to do with computers. So this is my way, and I want to reach out to all project managers out there, in particular project managers for construction companies. And this is what the next seminar is all about. This is titled, Project Management for Construction Companies. Construction excellence in the northeast of England, that is, has teamed up with the Northeast Regional Portal, and they are launching a series of Prince 2 training courses which are designed specifically for the region's construction companies. And these companies can choose from a 3-day foundation course, a 5-day practitioner course, or a 3-day conversion course. This is at the Northeast Portal, and it's throughout the year 2006. Unfortunately, I don't speak Portuguese, but nevertheless, I've been able to make this one out because this is the first seminar of risk management, which is going to take place, I believe it's on 2 days, the 20th and the 21st of June 2006 in Brasilia. And there are 3 people actually going to organize this whom I know. There is Ed Fern, who is a member of my PMI chapter here. We have Vladimir Liberzon, who is from Russia. And then there is Peter Mayo from PMP. He is from Brazil, and we've had a very interesting email conversation, he and I. So if you are in Brazil, go check it out. Learn something about risk management. We are now going to Ireland. To be precise, we're going to Dublin. On Tuesday, the 27th of June 2006, there is a seminar titled Successful Project Management Seminar, subtitled Delivering Complex Projects Within a Demanding Environment. And there, key feature of this seminar is going to be a master's class, which is hosted by a project management expert, Professor Rodney Turner, and he will give an overview of critical success factors for project management. But that isn't it. They have 10 other speakers at this one-day seminar. So this is going to be action-packed, and you can learn a lot in Dublin. And finally, this is close to home. This is in San Diego, California, about an hour from where I am right now. It is by the ASMI, the American Strategic Management Institute, and they have a Project Management Office Summit 2006. Maximize project efficiency by implementing a PMO, their website touts. This is on the June 28th and June 29th, like I said, in San Diego, California. And those were the seminars I had for you this week. Now, if I didn't mention your country, there is a simple thing you can do. Go to Google and search for seminars in your area. Go to pmforum.org and look at their calendar of events. Go to your local PMI chapter, your local professional association chapter, whatever it may be called, APM, APMI, ASAPM, I don't know. Check them out. They have a calendar. They will show you what's available in your area. And of course, the 5 that I have just mentioned, go to pmpodcast.blogspot.com and you will find the link to all 5 of those. And now, on with our main topic. Now, in today's fast-paced, project-driven markets, project managers are constantly being challenged to reduce their project lifecycle time and reduce development cost while also maintaining high levels of quality and customer satisfaction. And this challenge not only requires the proper hard skills of project management, risk management, schedule, cost development, and procurement management, but it also requires an increased level of proficiency in the soft skills, such as interpersonal communication, negotiation, influence, conflict management, resolution, and of course also political savvy. And this is where today's interview comes in. It is focused on politics in project management. Brian Irvin, PMP, is a project manager and the president of PM Team Dynamics. He has focused his efforts on understanding and communicating the importance of political savvy, conflict management, and team facilitation skills to increase the probability of successful projects in organizations, in your organizations. Here's the interview.
The Project Management Podcast Feature Interview. Today with Brian Irwin, PMP, President of PM Team Dynamics.
With me today is Brian Irvin, and we will be talking about project management and politics. Brian, hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, Cornelius, thank you.
Sure. Brian, you are currently writing a book on project management and politics. But before we get to that, please give us the tour of your professional life. How did you get into project management, and what did your career look like so far?
Sure, thanks. Well, first of all, I've worked in many industries, from computer manufacturing and development to defense, the IT realm, and most recently the aerospace industry. And now I'm also a core team member on the PMI's OPM3 2008 update team, serving on the self-assessment and measurement team. I've got a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, and I started my career as an engineer. I worked previously, I started at Gateway Computers back when it was still known as Gateway 2000, way back in the early 90s. And from there, I went to college and received my bachelor in engineering, as I stated. I moved from there to the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, where I worked as a control system engineer. And from there, I went back to the IT industry and worked for Hewlett-Packard for about 5 years. And now recently I'm in the aerospace industry for a large manufacturer in the Midwest. And I've seen what got me into project management is it was just a natural career progression for me. And I saw many engineering team leaders or project managers that were kind of a victim of the halo effect, if you will, being they were very good technicians and technical thinkers, but the common thought is that if they're good technically, they must be able to lead a project well in the same realm. And I witnessed that several times. And what I did is I decided to get some training in project management. I received a Master of Science degree in management and project management, and also received my PMP. And it takes real determination and a large interpersonal skill set to focus a project team on the detailed planning, the estimating, communicating required to prepare to enter the execution of a project. And that's really what led me to seek a master's degree, so that I would not have some of the same deficiencies that I witnessed in so many other instances.
And how is the book coming along now? You told me when we started the interview that you had just spent 1 hour prior to the interview writing on it.
Yes, Cornelius, the book's coming well. Thanks for asking. I've got 5 of 9 chapters complete currently in the nonfiction portion, and I'll be starting the fictional fable section soon. Let me describe that a little bit. Each chapter is broken into 2 elements. I've got the beginning part of the chapter, which is going to be the nonfiction portion, which will be similar to any business or nonfiction project management book that you would be able to buy. But what I'm doing is to hopefully that portion will be entertaining. But what I'm doing to help ensure that is I'm putting a running fictional section at the end of each chapter, such that it's the story of a project manager from leading a project from beginning to end, cradle to grave, so to speak. And there's going to be many instances of political play, conflict that the project manager will run into, which others will associate with most heartily. So I'm doing that to give the book a little bit more of a novel feel to it as well, similar to Eliyahu Goldratt's Critical Chain, or Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and Death by Meeting. All those books are really good reading.
I assume that the fictional portion is going to be taken out of the real life of project managers all around the world, right?
Yes, most definitely. Every project manager will face politics and conflict in every project that they work on. And some of the scenarios that I'll be going through and bringing this fictional project manager through will be based off some of my own experience, the experience of others that I know in the field. So people, I believe, will really be able to relate to it.
Was that what prompted you to write the book in the first place, or was there some other reason for it?
Well, there's a couple reasons I wrote the book. Number one is it's my way of giving back to the project management community. I really love the challenge of project management. And another reason I wrote it is I've been witness to numerous instances, myself included, where a lack of political acumen and conflict management and resolution skills led to the eventual downfall of the project. Often, even if the project leader has the skills to deal with the situations correctly, they choose not to do so out of fear of a confrontation or perhaps damaging a career.
So do you expect the book to be some sort of a self-help book almost?
The book will be a book that people will be able to relate to, as well as a practical guide that they could use in their projects from day to day and implement strategies to help them get through the political minefield and help manage conflicts and resolve conflicts within their projects.
When is the book due, and also have you written any others in the past?
Any other books I haven't. This is my first foray into being a book author. I've had a few technical articles published in the past, but never a book. This is my first shot at a book. It's going quite well. It's quite the experience. My book it'll be published. It'll be out for release around late spring or summer of 2007. At this point, I don't have an exact release date. The only date that I have right now is October 31st of this year for a manuscript due date. I'm going to try to pull that schedule into the left a little bit if I can.
Right, and you've also promised that at that time, once that it's out, that you and your publisher, you're going to make available several copies of the book for our listeners to give away. But since that's just down the line a little bit, your publisher has already agreed to give 2 books away. And these 2 books are Neil Witten's No Nonsense Advice for Successful Project. And the second one is by Stephen W. Flannes, I don't exactly know how to pronounce that, and Ginger Levin. And the title of the book is Essential People Skills for Project Managers. And as always, I will be announcing how to get involved in this book giveaway to the listeners at the end of the interview here. Let us move on. Let's get down and dirty with the politics, and let's start with the basics. Brian, how do you define politics on projects? What is it all about?
Well, Cornelius, that's probably the meatiest question, and probably it's difficult, if not impossible, to identify any one definition of politics in organizations or projects on which everyone agrees. However, for the purpose of my discussions on politics and the book that I'm currently writing, I'm referring to politics as being the art of influence. As project managers, we typically lack the formal positional authority and have to practice the art of influence, or politics, to ensure tasks get completed in a timely manner. One instance I always like to refer to is it really drives it home when I speak to people and I mention that when we speak of politics, we often speak in the third person. We refer to politics in the third person, such as they are sucking up, scheming, and manipulating. But us, when we refer to ourselves, we're building relationships and developing strategies and opening communication channels. So there's depending on which way you look at it, there's a positive and a negative spin to look at politics.
The art of influence. Yes, I can see that that is a very nice definition of politics and projects, especially if you're talking about a matrixed organization. Yeah, you have to have influence. Now, does every project have politics?
I can say wholeheartedly, most definitely, yes. I would say that the chance of politics is greatly lessened if you're working on a one-person project team. However, consider this: the Act. I'm a member of PMI. I'm a PMP, and when you look at the PMI project management process, one of the first things you want to do is develop and have a project charter signed. And when you think about this, this is a political move. When it gets down to the brass tacks and you think about it, one reason it exists is to leverage the executive level authority which we don't have as project managers typically. Most of us work in matrix organizations. So the act of getting the project charter signed is a political act which we will be able to point to illustrate the existence of the project essentially and get executive level buy-in, which hopefully will influence others buy-in as well.
Now, while we're talking about the politics that go on while signing the project charter, is there any project phase in particular during which we have more or most politics going on?
Well, Cornelius, while all phases of the project lifecycle have some degree of politics, it seems to me from my experience and talking to others and reading and doing the research that it seems to be the beginning of the life cycle seems to have an increased amount of politics and conflict as well. When you think about it, during this phase of the project, really ambiguity is king, and what you're doing is you're in that iterative, progressive elaboration state of the project where you're trying to really nail down the scope and the schedule and the budget, and you're having to negotiate for project resources that have the appropriate skills to complete the project. So it's really the beginning is where I've noticed the most politics. However, they do exist all the way through, and you can also have politics all the way through to the end game, actually.
I see. So at the beginning of the project, where things are in flux, management will probably want to have their influence shown. So does that mean that politics is always an indicator of someone wanting to exercise his or her power over a project, or can politics also stem from a completely different source?
Yes, it can also stem from a different source. Consider a situation I faced recently. While we're on the project charter topic, I was trying to garner executive sponsorship for a project. I incorrectly made the assumption that executives are well-versed, this is all executives, are well-versed in the tenets and steeped in the value of project management. And as such, I authored a project charter and asked some difficult questions of my project sponsor that helped me in later phases make decisions, such as how will we know when we're successful? In other words, we can deliver the product, but how do we really know when we're successful in the eyes of the sponsor? How will success be measured? How are you going to measure that success to determine how successful we were? And when we get on into the execution and control phase, what's the most flexible on the project, the scope, schedule, or budget? And how is each going to affect the quality? And not understanding his role as project sponsor, I was kind of scorned for asking these questions and violating the chain of command. I think that he thought I was questioning his authority, which certainly I wasn't. I was just trying to get straightforward answers to some basic questions. But as such, we got to validate our assumptions prior to moving forward with them, because of my misstep, I had to take steps to repair the professional credibility I lost in the eyes of the executive. albeit that it was simply, I was simply trying to do my job. But I later explained this, and he was, quite happy with it.
So we have, at the beginning of the project, lots of politics going on. We have various reasons why politics can happen. You've already hinted at the size that a one-person project really doesn't have any politics going on. Does that mean the larger the project, the more politics then?
Well, while politics certainly exists in all projects, regardless of their size, a project's political landscape is certainly shaped by the size of a project. A large project will usually entail many more project players and stakeholders than the smaller projects will. And additionally, we can expect much larger projects to typically have increased visibility, sometimes even international visibility. And when this occurs, you can generally expect to have a much larger field of political play. And in fact, I state even that the potential number of political channels and political play could actually increase at the same or greater rate than the communication channels on a project. This is because politics may be leveraged even outside the typical project team. For instance, engaging an outside agency or regulatory agency for project support or acceptance as a channel which is not even typically considered in the communications channel. So the typical PMI communications channel equation, the n squared minus n over 2, you can take to be your political channels at a minimum.
Okay. Now, let's see. You spoke about visibility, and the more visible a project is, the more politics it will have. Does that mean that public sector projects that are really visible and being scrutinized by the press, they must have nothing but politics going on then?
Well, yeah, certainly. When you look at the difference between public and private sector projects, you certainly do have many more chances for political play in those. If any project involves emotional issues such as the location of a nuclear power plant or something similar, having potential far-reaching impacts, you should most certainly expect to be confronted with a different landscape for politics than the typical IT system installation or new product development.
Let me give you a quote here. This quote is by Gopal Kapoor. He is the president of the Center for Project Management in San Ramon. And he said the following: "Politics in projects is natural because projects change the status quo, and change means stress. The survival instinct kicks in. People want to make sure that they get most resources they can and come out the least damaged." How do you feel about this particular quote by Gopal Kapoor?
Well, I believe the first part of the statement is absolutely spot on. Any challenge to the status quo will certainly induce stress somewhere. However, I believe the statement about the survival instinct serves to primarily illuminate the negative side of project politics.
We've kind of spoken about conflict as well already. Isn't politics just another word for conflict, or conflict another word for politics?
No, I don't believe so. While politics can be used as a method for dealing with basic organizational conflict, we shouldn't confuse politics and conflict. As I said earlier, politics is the art of influence, and this art of influence may be used to resolve conflict.
So far we've discussed politics almost as something, well, negative. Does politics also have a positive effect, maybe?
Oh, most certainly, a resounding yes. In fact, politics is required for project success.
So what do you do? How do you get politics to turn into a positive effect on your project?
Okay. one form of politicking is alliance building and relationship building. There's nothing morally wrong with a project manager using professional networks and alliances to further the goals of, the project and the organization. In fact, politics are very healthy and positive when used for the advantage of the project or the organization, either or. Politics are negative and defeating when we use them for personal gain or at the expense of the project or organization, or actually at the downfall of others or undermining of others.
Earlier you said that every single project will have politics on it. However, there are project managers out there whom you hear saying that, I try to stay away from the politics on my project. Is that even possible?
Not only is it not feasible, but it's entirely unrealistic. Projects occur in organizations, and organizations have cultures and political climates. And really, to effectively operate in any organization, we must understand the environments we're operating in. The denial of politics is one sure way to make yourself a victim of others' politicking. And actually, if you're not using politics to take advantage of a way to advance the goals of your project, I think it's you're really missing out on a positive aspect of what project management is.
You mentioned earlier that politics isn't really synonymous to conflict and conflict management. Now, in conflict management, we have, these standard resolution methods that you can apply. Is there something that a project manager needs, some skill set, in order to manage the politics on the project?
Well, when we look at the political landscape, navigating that landscape involves virtually every soft skill in the toolbox as a project manager. Some of those that come to mind as being critically important are negotiation, influence, communication. There's also a need to be able to perform detailed stakeholder analysis and perhaps even influence mapping.
Where would you say a project manager can learn these skills? Are there seminars? Are there books available that you might recommend?
Well, there's first of all, let me say we should always strive to be master communicators. Our lives as project managers depend on our ability to communicate effectively. There are numerous options available for this, obviously. For politics in particular, I'll be working on putting together some information posted to my website and hopefully developing a seminar in the near future. To address stakeholder mapping and influence mapping, there's something put out by Dr. Linda Bourne, who's a PMP out of Australia, and she's the director of training for Mosaic Projects Limited. And she actually provides a 2-day workshop on mapping stakeholder influence through the use of her quite ingenious tool called the Stakeholder Circle, and it's a visual mapping of the stakeholders on a project, and essentially it shows their influence on the project, whether they have the power to kill a project, and as well as how close to the project they are. They may have the power to kill a project, but they may be well removed from it, as an example. Some of the better books I've seen on organizational politics and awareness and utilities by Joel DeLuca, and he's an author, and he put a book out called Political Savvy. There's another really good one by Dr. Kathleen Kelly Reardon titled It's All Politics, Winning in a World Where Hard Work and Talent Aren't Enough. And, of course, I had to say my book, which will be out next year, and it's focused primarily, it's focused solely on politics and project management.
All right. You mentioned that you were going to put some information on your website. What is the URL of your website?
Sure. sure. My website is, of course, www.pmteamdynamics, all one word, .com.
pmteamdynamics.com, and as always, this link will of course be on my blog as well, so that people can easily find it. Now, is it possible to minimize the effect of politics on my project at all?
Actually, Cornelius, yes, it is. And actually, what we should do is stay tuned into the pulse of the business. We need to understand our organization and how our project impacts it. We should work to understand the key players and the stakeholders involved in the project, both on your project team and external to your team, that have a direct impact on the success of the project. That some of the things that goes along with that are understanding their motivations, their ability to influence, and finally be in touch with the project team members, and never underestimate the effect that a stakeholder analysis can do to increase your chance of project success. One of the big things I need to say here is that really we need to end politics in general on project management environment. We need to anticipate the moves of key stakeholders and plan accordingly. I liken it very similar to a risk management strategy, only this is for the people side of project management.
You know us project managers, right? We always want a process. We always want a template that we can follow. We always want it black and white. Is there some sort of a formal process, something more, maybe best practice-wise that I can follow to really address the politics on my projects, rather than, just going around and building good relationships with people?
Well, really the relationship building is what starts the process, and I'll be describing a process in my book in a little bit more detail. But to summarize that, it starts with a stakeholder analysis, and then it takes that information and uses it to map the influence that key players have on a project. And then essentially the data may be used to plan strategies as appropriate to successfully engage each stakeholder. And what I'll do is I plan on providing a preview of this on my website in the near future. So within the next month or two, actually, I hope to have something like that up.
Excellent. Now, to sum it all up, what would you say is the number one advice of what not to do when it comes to politics on your project?
Okay, probably the number one advice of what not to do is ignore, or better yet, as we spoke about earlier, deny the existence of politics and the role it plays in our projects. As project managers, we must become more aware of the critical success factors on our projects, one of which is politics. Much like managing risk, ignoring politics will not make it go away or lessen its impacts. So, in fact, in some instances, it may even impact or amplify its impacts.
And of course, then, conversely, what is the number one thing that a project manager should do when it comes to politics?
Okay, as project managers, the one thing we do well is plan. Our lives as project managers are filled with planning activities. Political mapping and strategy formulation is one additional project planning task that we should undertake. Not like there weren't enough of them already, right?
Yeah, right. Well, thank you very much. This was great, giving us a preview of your book and giving us the 50-cent tour of politics on project management. That was really interesting. Now, are you ready for the final 10 questions?
Yes, sir, I am, I do believe.
Good. Let's start with these 10 questions, the 10 same questions that I ask every project manager here on the show when I do an interview with them. So, number one, what was your favorite project?
Okay, Cornelius, this might sound a bit flaky, but I don't really have a single favorite project I've worked on. I've managed to learn
that
from...
answer.
Okay. I've managed to learn from each experience and take with me the interaction I've enjoyed with several of the key project players. In fact, that's really one of my strengths, and I remain close friends with several of them across many industries today.
Number 2, what project would you like to have managed?
Well, my father's a veteran of the World War II Pacific Campaign, and I served in the U.S. Army myself, and I think really to honor my dad and all the other World War II veterans, I would have loved to manage the National World War II Memorial Project in Washington, D.C.
Number 3, what is your favorite project management book? And of course, in your case, the one that you're currently writing doesn't count.
Okay, well, I've got so many, but I have to say that there are so many books out there on project management, specifically, especially about the hard skills of project management, the cost budgeting, the scheduling, the planning. But really, I've got 2 books that I turn to seemingly endlessly, constantly to help me refocus my energy and goals. And those 2 are, one of the ones we're giving away today. It's Neil Litton's No Nonsense Advice for Successful Projects by Neil Litton. The other is by Wayne Strider, called Powerful Project Leadership. And they really break it down to basics to people and how to effectively lead them.
Number 4, what is the topic of the next seminar that you are planning to attend?
Well, right now, the only thing that I have on the calendar that I'm planning to attend is PMI Global Congress in October in Seattle. So I look forward to many rewarding and educational experiences out there, as well as meeting the scores of other project managers from all over the world.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you there then.
Likewise.
Number 5, what is the best way to make a project fail? And this has got to be something with politics, I know it.
Actually, it is, in a way. When I think about that, there are several ways you can make a project fail. And I'm sure that every project manager out there stumbled across one of them at one point or another. But really, there are 3 top ones that I can think of right off the top of my head. And number 1 is failing to communicate with your team clearly and often. And remember, the customer is part of the team. Number 2 is poor project sponsorship. And then avoiding constructive conflict out of fear of confrontation is another way.
Number 6, how do you like to celebrate a successful project?
Well, I like to celebrate successes all along the way. I've found that doing this helps keep the motivation up and increases the team cohesiveness as we move along in the project. For an end project celebration, I like to hold an actual awards ceremony to bestow awards upon exceptional project performers who went above and beyond the call of duty for the good of the project. I also take this time to thank all the project team members publicly for their contribution. And it's always good, it helps morale as well to give out some gag awards too.
Number 7, in your projects, where do you focus most of your attention in order to be successful?
Communication and providing clear direction to the project team and ensuring roadblocks to their success are removed.
Number 8, if you weren't a project manager, what would you like to be?
I think maybe a career counselor to help people in their search for what their professional calling is, or if not that, perhaps a rock star. That might be nice too.
Yeah, money for nothing. Number 9, what is the one thing a manager cannot live without?
The ability to communicate effectively. I don't know, maybe I should go back in the interview and count how many times I said the word communication or communicate. It's probably up there.
Number 10, finally, the oldest question in project management. What is more important in a project manager? Is it project management expertise or is it industry expertise?
Well, from my experience, I've seen both extremes. While I believe that the industry experience is definitely helpful to a project manager, I don't think it alone is the silver bullet, not by any stretch. I believe project management expertise is applicable across industries, and really our job is to lead the project, not perform the work necessarily on the project. I believe project management expertise is applicable across industries, and my view is that project management skill set is absolutely the most critical factor, and industry expertise is a benefit.
Brian, thank you so much for having been on the program. I appreciate the time that you took to talk to us today about project politics. It was a pleasure.
Well, Cornelius, thank you. I can't tell you how honored I am to be on the podcast. I've been listening to it for quite some time now, and I'm a big fan, and I'll continue to listen for it. And I look forward to meeting you in October as well.
And that was Brian Irvin, PMP and president of PM Team Dynamics, discussing project politics with me. And of course, keep a lookout on Brian's upcoming book. It's tentatively titled Politics and Conflict in Project Management, a project manager's guide to success. Brian will be back on the show once the book is available. Until then, Brian and his publisher, Management Concepts, are giving away one copy of each of the following two books. The first one is Neil Witten's No-Nonsense Advice for Successful Projects, written, of course, by Neil Witten. The second one is Essential People Skills for Project Managers, written by Stephen W. Flans and Ginger Levin. To win one of these copies, please send an email to pmpodcast@gmail.com. In the subject, simply write book, and in the body, put your name and the country where you are writing from. Your email has to reach me by Wednesday, June the 28th, 2006. And if you have won one of our giveaways in the past, please don't participate and allow others a chance as well. Yeah, and that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. As a reminder, we have a page on iTunes that is inviting you to write a short review about the show. So fire up iTunes on your computer and write the review. Thank you very much. As always, you can find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this German quote on project managers that I find utterly untranslatable. Wer glaubt, dass ein Projektleiter Projekte leitet, der glaubt sicher auch, dass ein Zitronenfalter Zitronen faltet. With that, I could use some humorous project management quotes in English. If you have any, please send them to me. Until next time.